This program on investing under regulation crowdfunding is not investment advice.
Rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Supercross stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Welcome to the Superpowers for Good show from the Super Crowd. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and I'm just giddy today with excitement because we have such an extraordinary guest. But before I bring Matt onto the stage and introduce him, I want to just thank you all for joining us. I know many of you are watching for the first time, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. We have information on this show to help everyone invest better, more wisely, and with greater impact. We also have great information on the show to help people learn how to raise more money more efficiently for entrepreneurs. So we hope you'll be a regular viewer. Now, I want to introduce you to Matt Venturi, our guest for today. Matt is a big deal. He's the CEO of ClearingBid. He's running a company that is reinventing the IPO. And this is such an important part of our economy. I'm excited about the potential to really reinvigorate the IPO market, which has been in the doldrums for, by some measures, I would say for decades. He also is one of the most successful crowdfunding raisers in history, having raised $5 million. I'm so excited to have Matt on the show. Please, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We're just thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you, Devin. Well, it's great to see you in Washington, D.C. for the Crowdfunding Professional Association and get a chance to spend a little time with you. And thanks for the offer and opportunity to be with you today.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. You're a big deal, as I have mentioned, and I appreciate that you've made time for us today. We're excited about what you're doing. And I wonder if you would just take a minute, perhaps, to introduce us to ClearingBid so we have that as context for the rest of our conversation.
You betcha. Well, our mission statement really, Devin, is to open up the IPO market. We call it the primary markets because it would include both IPOs as well as debt offerings, but really open up the primary markets to millions of investors through their brokers to allow essentially everyone to participate and allow more companies to raise more capital more efficiently through transparency, connectivity, and quite frankly, inclusion.
Yeah, this is really a big deal because the IPO markets are kind of broken on several levels, but one of the things is they exclude, most individual investors, don't they? That just seems like such a fundamental flaw, but it's been true forever, for as long as I've been around in the markets.
Yeah, I've been on Wall Street for a number of decades, and this is we'll talk about. It's really a culmination of having that what they call it sell side experience. But like you said in your opening remarks, it's a very antiquated, not current methods with which to really leverage technology and leverage really the buying power out there that exists. We see it a little bit with the crowdfunding phenomenon that's taken place, but also, we've got tens of millions of investors that are shut out of this process. You have even large institutions that are shut out because the way it works is Wall Street really favors those biggest institutional investors that are their regular clients. They tend to allocate and dole out shares and IPOs to their benefit at the exclusion of everybody else. And then when an IPO is priced and it begins to trade, then everyone else who would like to have bought those shares who didn't, or those securities couldn't buy them on the IPO. They buy them in the secondary market, typically at a much higher price. So you have this pop, if you will, between a relatively low price and an opening price that typically is higher. And that's when everyone has the opportunity to buy. And what we're really doing is allowing everybody to come in at that IPO price and be able to have their order seen and recognized and have it really level the playing field.
It is. Every bit as big a deal as you're suggesting. Having been a broker dealer, having run my own investment banking firm, having been a corporate CFO, corporate treasurer, running investor relations, I know how frustrating it is to raise capital on Wall Street. And this is a real game changer for the issuers as well as for the investors. On the issuer side, walk us through some of the benefits, because I think there's a huge benefit to the issuers.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, the issuers really have probably a limited opportunity to do a one-time offering and message to the broader market, what that investment opportunity is, and particularly to affinity investor or affinity consumer base out there. And consequently, the people who end up, not having that opportunity to invest in what they know and love is a detriment. So what we're really doing is we're basically allowing any investor through their broker, who has to provide the oversight and determine suitability and has to know their customer, to be able to seamlessly put an order in and have that order be seen. And for a company, to your point here, the company now can cast a much wider net and have access to those users / investors that are really particularly interested in buying and owning those shares. I think Reddit was a good example. Only 7% of that offering ended up going to Reddit users. 93% went to the big institutions. And, the way it was priced, the way it opened up, the way it turned over, really suggested that a lot of those folks that would have loved to purchase shares on the offering didn't. And they were in the secondary market bidding it up and paying a much higher price at their expense and to the benefit of others that had the privilege of buying in the first place.
Yes, the implication of what you're talking about is this clubby system that benefits the big investors at our expense, whether we are small businesses raising capital this way or whether we're investors, we're losing out to those big players who are dominating the IPO market. So your innovation is incredibly important to market efficiency. So I'm really hoping that you're going to be absolutely successful. The prospects of your success were evidenced by the great success you had with your crowdfunding offering. Tell us about how that went. Walk us through the story of that, because a lot of us that are watching are genuinely interested in, how did you pull that off? What can I learn as an entrepreneur? What can I learn as an investor to make sure that I'm getting in on the good deals?
Yeah, the crowdfunding experience was an interesting one. At first, I wasn't really certain that it was going to be the right approach for us, but in retrospect, it turned out to be a incredibly positive experience. We had 3,900 investors, many of whom are affinity investors and great evangelists for what we're doing, which was great because we're appealing to those that would like to see democratization of this process. We did have the benefit when we started to have a research piece published on us that ran into some problems, and at the end of the day, it finally was published, which I think was the differentiating factor to allow us to have that visibility and awareness among this investor base that in this case with WeFunder that we work with, and they were really great to work with. And fortunately, because of that I don't want to say sponsorship, but the awareness that the research piece did provide us, we ended up closing the transaction in less than about 3 weeks, raised the full $5 million. It was with a safe securities agreement for future equity type of structure. And it was a little bit, deeper in the money in terms of valuation than I would have liked to have seen. But honestly, it turned out to be a great experience. And again, that affinity investor group, we love. And so every quarter, we're making sure we're updating everybody on what's going on. And those are our peeps. And over time, as people register for our site as users and begin to use the site to be able to purchase shares in companies that they want to buy on an IPO, we're going to be able to deliver to and be able to communicate with that user base and see it expand over time. So it's really very simpatico, and it turned out to be a nice compliment to our mission statement and our approach to how we want to really level this playing field and give everybody the same kind of opportunity.
Yeah, this is really exciting stuff. One of the things that people are sometimes anxious to talk about or not talk about, really is what I'm saying, is the marketing plan. And I imagine that you had some formal or informal marketing plan that helped you raise that $5 million. I wonder if you'd open the kimono just a little bit and share some of what you did so that those entrepreneurs in the crowd here watching the show can say, oh, I get it. I want to raise $5 million too. I see what they did, right? Can you share some of that?
Yeah, there's no real secret. I think one of the things that was particularly advantageous was the opportunity to have a video production. You saw some of the snippets there initially here. Alex Portera with Rally On was someone we were introduced to. He did a fabulous job of producing our video. And I think what it really did, Devin, is help us to kind of formulate and articulate, what that messaging needed to be to face with who our public audience was, and be able to use that as kind of a springboard. And then the marketing materials that you use in a Reg CF offering, are kind of ordinary because you basically have your bullet points, your selling points, and a little bit more background. But I think the ability to create some animation so that people could see some of the user functionality, that was important too. And that was, specific to our situation. So I think, the ability to see and touch and understand what is kind of somewhat of a complicated nuance that we're introducing, because people, don't believe, one, they're going to be able to buy shares in IPOs, and even the broker network out there that is really, I call them a distributed sales force, who's going to be making those calls to the clients, engaging with them, adding assets under management, earning commissions, if they can earn commissions, but really engaging that whole universe out there. They don't even know that something like this exists, because the industry's really moved toward an asset management fee approach. There's no commissions, and it's not, people aren't buying direct investments, quite frankly. They're mostly buying funds and ETFs. So there is a bit of a paradigm shift here with how people are used to buying securities, and certainly a sea change here in this primary new issue market that's never been accessible before. So having the ability to use this crowdfunding to articulate what we're doing, how we're doing it, and educate people was, I think, extremely beneficial, and the video went a long way in that regard too.
Well, Matt, I really appreciate you sharing that, because this is just so helpful. You mentioned, and I think we need to take a minute and talk about this, that you kind of alluded to you called it, I think, decades. You look a little bit like my younger brother, so you don't have the decades of experience I have, I suspect, but you've spent some time on Wall Street. Tell us a little bit about your career that brought you to this point.
Well, I was really fortunate. I got out of college, Santa Clara University in California, and I went to New York. I was fortunate to become accepted into this corporate intern program. It was a Merrill Lynch. It was really the premier executive training program on Wall Street at the time. And I spent 2 months in each area of the firm over an 18-month period. There were 17 of us. And it was very high visibility because we were working with the department heads, and I spent time in corporate finance, sales and trading, fixed income, equity, research. And I began going to NYU Business School at night, which Merrill paid for because I put myself through college. So I really appreciated having someone pay my tuition for graduate school at NYU. And that took me about 3.5 years full time. And I became a broker for a couple of years after finishing my the corporate intern program while I was still working on my MBA. And that time in the broker industry, where you're really dialing for dollars and earning commissions, was extremely good experience for what we're doing now, because we have faced with the public and the broker community. But I did that for a couple of years, and then ended up moving down to the corporate syndicate desk, pricing investment grade debt issues with Merrill Lynch for about a year. And that was good experience on the debt side. And then I ended up joining Smith Barney in the old days. It became Solomon Smith Barney. Spent 12 years in investment banking. And those 12 years were as an industrial calling officer, doing private placements, M&A, mergers and acquisitions, public offerings. And then I spent about 4 years doing financial restructurings, bankruptcy advisory, where companies were going through bankruptcy, and then they come out the other end as a public company, and we do an IPO. And then I spent some time developing a fixed income structure in the franchise industry. And then I started a program where we were really working with the 2,000 financial advisors west of the Mississippi to have them and work with them for clients that wanted to go public, maybe sell their company or do a private placement. And then I went off on my own for a couple of years, set up my own boutique investment bank And then I got recruited by Houlihan Lokey, where I joined them in 1998, and the next 4 years helped build up their investment banking efforts. But this whole idea culminated back in really, 2012, 2014. And I just always on the side really felt this is something that I wanted to do and put my experience of spending time in what I call the silos of Wall Street, the sell side, which have a lot of inherent conflicts, and pull something together that could really have a meaningful change on the industry and people's lives.
Well, this that you're doing, ClearingBid, has that impact, makes that difference. I commend you. This really is a game changer. And I know there have been some folks who've dabbled, worked on this at other times in other places. Wall Street needs this influence. I hope you're able to pull this off and scale it up big, because this is a game changer potentially. We've got to take a quick break, Matt. Forgive me, but listen, folks. I'm here with Matt Venturi, the CEO and founder of ClearingBid, an amazingly successful entrepreneur who's raised a ton of money from the crowd and is reinventing the IPO market for companies that are going public, if you will. Such a great guest to have on the show today. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to shift gears and talk to him about his superpower. So stick around. You don't want to miss this.
Download a free copy of How to Make Money with Impact Crowdfunding, the book Sarah Hanks describes as
A fantastic overview, not just of crowdfunding investing, but of investing in general.
Andrew Savickas raved,
This book offers unparalleled insights for anyone looking to make a difference.
Scan the QR code to get your copy.
Ready to take your small business to the next level? Honeycomb Credit empowers diverse entrepreneurs by connecting you with community-driven funding. Build customer relationships, amplify your brand, and grow with those who believe in you. Honeycomb Credit, where your community invests in you.
Scan the QR code to start today.
Join the Impact Crowdfunding movement. Get Superpowers for Good, your free daily newsletter with exclusive video replays, a podcast, and the latest investment opportunities open to everyone. Join the super crowd. Scan now so you can learn to make money while you make a difference.
Welcome back to the Superpowers for Good show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and I've got with us today Matt Venturi, the CEO and founder of ClearingBid, hugely successful entrepreneur. So excited to have him on the show. We're going to shift gears now to talk to him about his superpower, so stick around. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. It's just been such a great conversation. You're doing so much cool stuff in the financial markets. What is your superpower?
Well, it wasn't until today, Devin, I started to think, superpowers. Do I actually have superpowers? I'm not sure about that, but I love the spirit and the intent of your show. It's great messaging. I was thinking about what my roles and responsibilities are as a CEO, and I probably capsulize it by saying, you have to be a cheerleader of all talents, because it includes everything from strategic direction and operational oversight to sales and marketing to technology development, strategic partnering, regulatory and compliance, political and social, and then emotional. And that's why I really, call it cheerleading here. But, I'd say, digging down and thinking about, what my personal characteristics and maybe strengths or really what's given me the ability to kind of power through this is really a combination of fortitude and conviction. And I'd say at the end of the day, it's passion. You have to be passionate about what you do. And when you're speaking to something that, you may be an authority in, or you've built, a good knowledge base that you can confidently be able to go after and go toe to toe with folks who are very bright and strong-willed in this industry and on Wall Street and corporate finance, investment banking. You got to know what you're talking about. So you have to start with good fundamentals in terms of your training and understanding the basics, but then applying that to kind of the real world and the fortitude to be able to kind of stick with this theme in a very adverse and skeptical market environment is hard work. So you got to believe in yourself and you got to stick to it.
It seems to me the fundamental superpower I'm hearing is your passion. And I see how that empowers you, right? That passion gives you the confidence to stand in front of an audience of investors and speak with confidence because you have the real passion and the conviction of what you're doing. Can you share a story that would perhaps illustrate how you use that passion to accomplish something?
Oh boy, never really think about that. I think, every single time, quite frankly, and I tell you, it's just you get the same pushback from people about how revolutionary what we're doing it is, but no one's been able to do it before. What makes you think you can do it, and really break the cabal of how Wall Street operates? And so I think this exhibiting the passion or where and how that it comes from, it gets back to conviction. And so, I think every single day, every single call, every single moment that I'm kind of working through this and trying to explain to people what we're doing, why we're doing it, why it's important, it is passionate. And it's just, man, I tell you, you live at 24 hours a day. I mean, you're waking up in the middle of the night thinking about this stuff, but it's everything you live and breathe right now.
As you think about this, I hear what you're saying. All of us need more passion. How would you coach us to develop that? Some of that's a gift, but some of that you've cultivated. How could we cultivate passion, that enabling power to accomplish more?
I was never really considered myself an entrepreneur. I mean, I started out on Wall Street, and you're kind of, you learn the ropes as you go through it. And little did I know I was going to be out being an entrepreneur and starting a company. But what you really, I think, have to, again, you have to be grounded in the fundamentals, and there's no substitute for that. And you really have to understand, what it is that you're really, what's the objective. And if you step back and think about that, and you have that conviction, what you'll find is that the people around you will really help to rally your emotions and your spirit, and that the fortitude that you need to have to do this. But you build around that, and I'd say a lot of it has to do with the feedback you get as a result of what you share with others, to be able to, it's like a mirror. You're going to get back what you put out, and you'll get back a lot more. But it's that combination of reassurance from others who share that vision. And you have to be a cheerleader, because there's down times and difficult times that, it gets very tight. You're trying to make payroll, but then you get wins that are spectacular, and you sell the wins and you downplay the downturns. But people have to believe in it, and they have to believe in you, and you got to be out there every day waving that flag. But it's a team effort, but you got to be willing to step up and take ownership and be a leader to do it.
Well, that's great, Matt. I really want to thank you again for taking the time to be with us, and commend you on the great work that you're doing. As we wrap up now, I wonder if you would take a minute and tell people how they can learn more about ClearingBid, how they can connect with you. Maybe there's a protocol for reaching you. I get that people can't just dial you up on demand, but I know people walk us through, and maybe people want to follow you on social media and, guide us.
Thanks, Devin. Appreciate it. Well, ClearingBid.com, that's our URL. My email is matt@ClearingBid.com. But at the end of the day, if you go to our site, we encourage you to do that and sign up. I mean, provide us with a little background on your interest, your investment and interest, a little bit of background on yourself. Because what's going to happen is we bring our first deals to market, and we've got our first one that we announced that's in the pipeline right now that we're going to be bringing out. You're going to want to be able to get the alerts. You want to get the notifications and engagement, because as we begin to build this, you're going to be the first to get that information and be able to work through your broker and be able to put orders in, and how the ground rules work and everything else. So I would encourage you to go to the site, become a user, begin to engage and really experience a little bit of the content that we have up there. We have what's called the IPO Data Hub. It's fantastic because it's basically a report card on every IPO, every direct listing's been done over the last several years. And you'll see how terribly underpriced these have been priced and how they trade when they open up and what the turnover and volume is and everything else. But you begin to educate yourself a little bit, because I think the education in this knowledge hub, which is another part of our site, is really a fundamental part. So I encourage you to go to the site,
Fantastic.
reach out to me, and we welcome the participation.
Fantastic. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We want to wish you every success with this great, important, revolutionary work that you're doing at ClearingBid.
Thank you so much, Devin. Thanks for the opportunity. God bless you all, and appreciate the interest.
All
Sign
right.
up.
Now, thanks. Now, let's do some good.